Hello there, class. Faisal here. It is a May 19th, and we are coming at you with our video of the day. And we're going to be starting by talking about your grades. So, by now, if you've submitted your work by Monday afternoon, you should have gotten it graded already by me. I've sent them back as soon as I've been finishing them, so that should be done. Um, so I did it through Google Classroom. First of all, sorry that all of the grades are. It says missing in Google Classroom. Nothing's missing. If you see a comment by me and all the comments and everything like that, it means it was graded. The grade is in the comment section. Google Classroom doesn't really cooperate with the way I like to grade things, with like splitting things into two. So I had to do it that way, but don't panic just because it says missing, right? Your grade is there and it's recorded. You don't have to do anything. All right. So look at your grade in my comments, and I did also leave a rubric, which hopefully was useful. Now, a few comments about your stuff. Let's first talk about the P word, plagiarism. So, Google Classroom is nice because it gives me an automatic scanning thing, right? So when you guys hand things in to me, it automatically scans your stuff, right? I don't have to do anything, right? And it shows me, hey, this sentence in the middle of this paragraph has something from the CBC or from Vox or whatever it is. So, I highlighted this every time I saw it, and I can tell you guys, if you plagiarize, it is a 0. Meow. But what if it's just one sentence? So, this time, if there was only one sentence, and a lot of you there was only one sentence that had that, I didn't give you a 0 this time, right? Consider this a sort of warning shot, right? Because it's, one sentence out of an entire paragraph or over the course of 3 paragraphs. Okay, I'm not going to hit you with a 0 for that. But if I see it again, right, even one sentence in an essay or anything like that, then you're going to be looking at some zeros, all right? Because, look, plagiarism is a serious thing. If you do it at the college or university level, you're going to have trouble. So don't copy even one sentence, okay? Meow. I won't. Very good. This is a serious matter. Don't be cats. All right. Other issues, grammar issues. Look at my comments carefully, right? I tried to highlight problems as I saw them. We had things as everything from capitalization to commas to anything like that. That's something you need to look at, right? This is hard for me to really do over the internet because it's much easier to help someone with grammar in person, but obviously we can't do that right now. But what you need to do absolutely is get your commas under control, get rid of sentence fragments, look for capitalization, look for commas, everything like that. All right. So that's what. Hey, wait. That's what I need you guys to look at. So look at my comments very carefully. Now, these are your grades that I've given you. Your first 2 grades. All right. You wait. See. As I was saying, these are your grades that I've given you. And look, let me be blunt. Don't ask me to just raise your grade just because, right? I often hear students, both in person and through emails tell me, "Well, I need a higher grade than that." And guess what? I know you need a higher grade than that. Everyone needs a higher grade, right? Everyone taking grade 12 college or university needs their grades to be as high as possible because they have applications. So I know you need a higher grade, right? Don't tell me you need a higher grade because, well, guess what? I'm well aware of that. But the way you get higher grade is by taking my feedback into account and fixing whatever issue you have with commas or prepositions or topic sentences or awkward phrasing or whatever it is, right? And getting those issues under control so you get good grades, right? uh, don't ask me to give you a grade because I'm a nice guy, right? Because that is just going to be a big no. I'm not going to be a nice guy in that regard, right? I'm going to give you the grade you should have, right? I know you would all love me over there if I just was like, all right, 20 out of 20 for everyone, right? And you'd all be like, oh, yeah, he's the best teacher ever. No, that's not how you become the best teacher ever, right? You become the best teacher ever by grading fairly. So what you can do is you can ask questions, right? So if you want to ask me about things like, well, can you explain comma splices again? Or can you explain about subject-verb agreement a bit more? That I can do, right? So that's the direction I would push you in. Don't just be like, well, you gave me a B plus, I deserve an A plus, right? No, that's not how we're going to do things. The idea of a grade is to let you improve, right? So please take the time to read what I wrote and think about what I said and ask me any questions you need so that when we do our essays, right, which are coming up, it will be a lot simpler, a lot easier. So, let's get down to the happy endings, if it's possible. That's the story that I posted on Friday, right? I hope you all read it over the long weekend. If you haven't, you just go to May 15th's post, and there's the link, click there, and there's happy endings. Now, as you probably have noticed, this story was kind of weird. It is sort of framed as a multiple choice thing, right, in terms of all of the different endings. But as you may have noticed as you read through it, it's actually, they sort of connect to each other, right? You know, in ending B, John marries Madge, right? But then in ending C, John, who is an older man, falls in love with Mary, and Mary, who is only 22, feels sorry for him because he's worried about his hair falling out. I can relate to that, by the way. Kind of bald, even though my hair is long. But nevertheless, John is married to Madge in that one. So it's almost like that's a continuation of B, right? And then in the end of C, Madge marries a guy named Fred, and then D is Fred and Madge, right? So they sort of connect together, even though it's supposed to be multiple choice until it gets to F, when F is just completely different from everything else. So if you were a little confused reading this and sort of thinking, huh, what? That's okay. That's sort of what's going on here, right? It's sort of hallmark of that, let me put that word up here, postmodernism idea, right? Where it's all about subverting your expectations, right? So when you read a story, you expect there to be a beginning, middle, and an end. This story gives you a bunch of different endings, but then on top of the bunch of different endings, you read it and then you realize, wait, hang on, it's sort of connected together at the same time, right? So I thought I was reading something that was just a bunch of different endings, but I'm sort of also reading a continuous story at the same time, right? So that's what postmodernism likes to do, and that's what this sort of thing is all about, right? So this is where, you know, if you're still in love with the plot graph, and by plot graph I mean this thing, right? The whole expedition, rising action, climax, falling action, resolution thing, right? You've probably seen this in a previous class at one point or the other. Well, you read a story like this, and can anyone make a plot graph out of this? It would be going like that, right? Because it's a bunch of different stories in rapid succession, right? So postmodernism is all about sort of subverting your expectations like this. So the question then becomes, well, all right, what's going on here? What's sort of the point of this? Well, let's take a look. The most important part of happy endings is probably the ending. So let's take a look right now just at the end of the story. So it says here, you'll have to face it, the endings are the same however you slice it. Don't be deluded by any other endings. They're all fake, either deliberately fake, with malicious intent to deceive, or just motivated by excessive optimism, if not by downright sentimentality. The only authentic ending is the one provided here. John and Mary die, John and Mary die, John and Mary die. So much for endings. Beginnings are always more fun. True connoisseurs, however, are known to favor the stretch in between, since it's the hardest to do anything with. That's all that can be said for plots, which anyway are just one thing after another, a what and a what and a what. Now try how and why. So, a couple of different things are happening here. Meow. So, is she saying that everyone just dies in the end, so it doesn't matter what the ending is? Ah, yes, very good, Dragos. So that does seem to be part of the message here. John and Mary die, John and Mary die, John and Mary die. So, I can't really type with a cat. You go down. About, whether, this John and Mary just stay in love and have kids and everything, but rather, why these things happened and how these things happened, right? So that seems to be what Margaret Atwood is getting at the end, right? And if you're wondering, yes, all of her stories are like this, right? So if you find this kind of writing to be a little obnoxious, then, well, that's Margaret Atwood for you. Anyhow, so she is definitely saying that, ultimately all endings lead to death, right? That's definitely part of the story here. But if we really examine the end and the whole thing, right? She says at the end here, that's all can be said for plots, which anyway are just one thing for after another, a what, and a what. Now try how and why, right? We see that maybe she's trying to tell us something else here with this admittedly fairly strange story here, right? With this John and Mary and Madge and Fred and everything like that. So, that brings us to your question of the day. All right. So, there it is. Okay, let me make that bigger. It'll be bigger when it's on the website. Let's see. So, the question is, what is the overarching point that Margaret Atwood was trying to make in Happy Endings? Or, in other words, what is the author trying to say with this story? So we've got this very unusual story, right? And what I would like you guys to do is to basically say, all right, Margaret Atwood, you wrote this weird story. This is what you're trying to say, right? So the way you would answer this is say the author is trying to say this, or the Margaret Atwood wants us to think about this, right? So that's your question of the day. You're going to submit it into Google Classroom, right? Guys, don't email me your answers. Just put them into Google Classroom. That's what I prefer. If at all possible, put it through Google Classroom. Now, again, the idea of this is I'm going to post one of these for every short story we do. We're going to do 4 different short stories during the week. So you're going to get a mark out of 5 for each of these questions, and that's going to be our equivalent of a test, right? So it says it's due tomorrow or today, right, at midnight. If you are late with it, well, you're late with it. And you don't let these things pile up, because they're going to rapidly pile up. Because, as you're going to see, you're going to answer this question, and then the story for tomorrow. Tomorrow's story is going to be The King of the Raft. Now, this one, I had to use Google Books to get it, but it should be right there, right? This story, The King of the Raft, and that's going to be our story for tomorrow. So your job for right now is to, number 1, answer my question, right, through Google Classroom, and number 2, read this next story, right, The King of the Raft, so that you're ready for tomorrow, right? Because tomorrow there'll be a video about that one, right? And a question about that as well. All right? So those are the 2 things you guys have got to do. I hope that's fairly clear. And if you have any questions or if there's any confusion, just ask me below, and I will answer that. Remember, Thursday is going to be our Google Meetup of the week, by the way. So we will have a Google meeting on Thursday. Anyway, if you have any questions, ask below. And I was about to say any questions as if I'm in a classroom. I guess I'm getting used to this. Anyway, so I will leave it there for today. And I hope that you guys have interesting things to say about happy endings. I hope you enjoyed the story also. And I will see you guys next time.